All right, thank you all for tuning in on Friday afternoon or morning, depending on where you are, to learn about our latest tool around cliff modeling. My name is Max Ghenis. I'm here with my colleague Daphne Hansell, and we are from PolicyEngine. I'll tell you a little bit about what PolicyEngine does and sort of how we think about cliffs and how you can use our software to model them. And then I'll turn it over to Daphne to run through the CliffWatch tool itself with a range of examples. Um, Feel free to pop in with questions along the way, or we'll also save some time toward the end. And we'll also sort of close with where we see the future of Cliff policy analysis going beyond this tool. So just to set some terminology, some of you may have heard the term benefit cliff, welfare cliff. Um, and this has been used for a couple of different purposes. You might think of an asset cliff where Medicaid or SSDI or SSI has an asset cliff where if you have a dollar above a certain amount of assets, you lose some benefits, or a policy change or a life change where at a certain point you lose some benefits. We have a very sort of precise quantitative definition, which is anytime if you were to earn an extra dollar, that you would lose a benefit or just even pay more in taxes, or if your total net income is lower than it was before you earned that extra dollar. So you might have earned that dollar from working an extra hour or getting a raise. And this is sort of this chart that you'll see throughout the presentation of on the x-axis, how much you earn, and on the y-axis is net income after taxes and transfers. So that's sort of what you'll see throughout. And in terms of why PolicyEngine is kind of equipped to help shed light on this question is we have a microsimulation model of most of the tax and transfer policies in the US. So we operate an open source platform where either through our Python package, we have AI tools, we have web apps. You can either design a policy or just see what the effect of an individual policy is under current law. So our model includes policies like the federal income and payroll taxes, also state income taxes in all 50 states and DC where they exist, also local income taxes, tax credits, SNAP, Medicaid, SSI, ACA. You'll see a range of these sort of health policy outcomes before. And also, you can see our coverage tracker if you go to policyengine.org. There's a model bar at the top where you can see the full set of policies. I'll also talk a little bit at the end about the other half of this. So we do model the rules where we'll calculate what each of those benefits are for you. And you can also see what the net impact of a policy is through our microsimulation platform. But we're really focused on the household side here. So, we're really trying to establish the most complete picture of household net income as possible. And we've been studying this question of cliffs for years. This is a very old version from 2023 of our old web app. But we've always sort of had a soft spot for this chart where you have the earnings on the x-axis, net income on the y-axis. And here you can see there's a place right around $50,000 in that middle panel where this person was experiencing a small cliff. Marginal tax rates also are kind of the flip side of this. How much do you take home after taxes and transfers on that extra dollar? The marginal tax rate is basically 100% minus that level. And one of the stylized facts we see is that at the very low end, people with very low income, especially parents, usually actually do not face cliffs the way that they did before welfare reform, for example. In fact, in this case, you can kind of see it at the very left. They actually face negative marginal tax rates because you have policies like the EITC and the child tax credit phasing in. Those are work subsidies. But what's happened over time is that they've sort of shifted the marginal tax rate schedule and the cliffs to be more like 100, 200% of the poverty line. There's also certain policies like the ACA premium tax credits have a cliff at 400% of the poverty line. So you usually don't see it as much at the under 100%, but you'll see a lot of action sort of 100 to 200, 300% of the poverty line. So with that, this sort of been a hidden feature of our tool for a long time. You may have seen it in some of our reports as well. But we really wanted to build a tool that sheds light on the full breadth of the problem. And that's what Daphne has built, and we'll tell you about now.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Max. So yeah, I for the past few months have been working on this specific tool called CliffWatch, which, as Max explained, uses all of the amazing data and rules we've had within PolicyEngine, but makes it easier to visualize just the Cliff element of it. So I'm going to walk us through a couple of examples, starting on this more straightforward side and then getting into, yeah, slightly more complicated Cliffs. So you can see we're just going to start. Very simple. The 55-year-old adult in Ohio, no dependents, single. Just look at some cliffs. So there are two cliffs that we can see on this net income chart. We can see, and then we can look at the program detail as well. So we can see the first cliff here is caused by losing Medicaid eligibility. So that is at about 138% of the federal poverty line in Ohio. Now, because Ohio has expanded adult Medicaid, that's why this adult is eligible up until then. But after that point, they moved to Affordable Care Act subsidies, which in Ohio are worth less than Medicaid. And so then we can see at 400% of the federal poverty line, this adult loses access to Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. And so we can see on the net income chart at what point there's the full recovery from the cliff. And we can go into that in more detail down here as well. So our sort of the recovery point is at what income you earn more than at before, just before the cliff. And so for both of these, for the first cliff or for the ACA cliff, it's about $5,000. And for the Medicaid cliff, it's about an additional $2,000.
So let me just drill in on that. If you can go to that maybe first cliff, let's look at the chart. So the cliff is at, can you hover over there? The cliff is at $22,000 of wages, and your net income is basically 30,800. Now you have a cliff that reduces that net income. If we go slightly to the right, is that right? And then to earn back to that 3,800, you have to increase your earnings by about $2,000 to 24,250. Am I reading that right?
Yes. And so yeah, and the chart lets us see what's causing that. So now let's go to a slightly more fun example. So let's go to Georgia. Sorry. So let's go to the state of Georgia. Imagine we have an unmarried adult with a child age 5. And then we're going to add childcare expenses. And so you can see here in the advanced input section, all of these different inputs affect program eligibility. So all of these are things, variables within PolicyEngine that allow you to get a finer level of detail on your program eligibility. And so we're going to add childcare expenses for this single parent and look at the cliffs that ensue because of that. And so you can see there's a lot more cliffs on here. And as Max mentioned in the introduction, a lot of these cliffs are caused by sort of child-related programs because a lot of the safety net is targeted at children. So, and you can see that a lot of these cliffs are much wider, so it takes longer to recover from. So let's get into the details. So our first cliff here, we have TANF. So at $7,500 a year of income, the household loses TANF just entirely. Then just after that, at another $500 of earnings, so $8,000 a year of market income, the household loses a Medicaid for the parent, so the adult Medicaid, but the child stays on Medicaid. And then the next cliff we see is SNAP at $27,000 a year, shortly followed by free school meals at another $500. So And then we have the child losing Medicaid, and then we have the ACA premium tax credit. So we can see this program detail, all of these sort of stacked on top of each other, the way these benefits can sort of cluster around parts of the poverty line as well. So biggest cliff this household faces is the adult Medicaid combined with TANF, because those happen at sort of a similar income band. And you can see that the household needs to earn an additional $11,000 to get back to the point where they were before the cliff. And then the second cliff is the child losing Medicaid access as well. And then the third cliff is the premium tax credits again.
And can we just drill in? So, this black line is sort of below the stacked area chart on the top. Can you talk about sort of how to read this chart from that perspective?
Right. So the black line is their net income, but we also include here their expenses. So taxes are negative. And so, but the programs stack on top and can create a market income or a net income above.
So it's worth mentioning, the tax piece, usually benefit cliffs are really just about the cliff side, sorry, the benefits. There are some tax programs that create cliffs, but it's pretty rare. On the other hand, if you want to think about the full, it looks like here, for example, if we go back to net income, some of the gap that you create, like the width of that gap is going to be driven not just by benefits, but also taxes, because you're looking at total net income. And some programs, for example, DC has a couple of tax credits that have cliffs as well. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yes. Okay, and so now for a final example, let's look at an example in Delaware. This one will be mildly less cliffy, of a married couple, 2 adults, and one of them is pregnant. And so can find some cliffs here. So yeah, you can see there's just sort of a cascade of cliffs in this example, caused by Medicaid primarily, Head Start for the child, Medicaid for the pregnant adult, which is set at a higher income level than the not pregnant spouse, and then WIC as well. And then our last one is good old ACA premium tax credits at 400% of the federal poverty line. But if we look at this one sort of giant continuous cliff, it takes until market income rises over $20,000 to regain the income they started at before this cliff at a market income of $43,000 a year. And so yeah, the largest drops are Head Start, and then Medicaid is also a large driver of this as well. Yeah, so you can look through all this, and then yeah.
Could you also show the marginal tax rate and sort of explain what that is here?
Yes. So yeah, we can see the marginal tax rates here.
It's a little hard to read because of the
Yeah,
spikes,
I know it's too cliffy.
but cover it does show the
Yeah,
value.
right. So yeah, we have a marginal tax rate of 7,000%, meaning that each additional dollar of income.
But even in the areas where,
Yeah.
so a cliff truly it's an infinite marginal tax rate
Right.
in some way. But you can see the marginal tax rate at areas where it's more stable
Mhm.
is still 39%, 42%. Those are on par with the top marginal tax rate in the US is 37% on earned income. So
Yeah. Okay, great.
so that is CliffWatch. Are there any questions from the audience before we sort of move on to where we see this area going from here?
Or any example households people would like to look at.
Favorite zip code? Okay.
Okay, great. And so one potential policy response to cliffs that people consider is these sort of sloping programs instead. So an example it was recently in policy news about a cliff was the potential extension of the enhanced premium tax credit. So these were introduced in the Inflation Reduction Act, and they got rid of that cutoff of eligibility for the Affordable Care Act at 400% of the federal poverty line and just phased out with earned income. But as those expired, the cliff is back. So this is an example of the type of policy that can reduce cliffs. Pass it back to Max for more PolicyEngine background.
Yeah, so this is one of many kinds of tools that we've developed that our external stakeholders and users of our software have developed. Our mission is really to democratize evidence-based policymaking by providing this infrastructure for computational policy analysis. So just wanted to highlight a couple of our users. The Joint Economic Committee recently used our software to build a tool that estimates the net fiscal effect of different kind of immigration policies. The Bureau of Economic Analysis is using our software to estimate the distributional national accounts, or who benefits or pays in different federal and state taxes, extending our work to really inherit and promote the tax sim infrastructure that's been developed over the past several decades. And academics have used it for studies around, for example, I'm not sure if Matt Unrath is on the call, but basically using administrative data to understand the total distribution of net marginal tax rates, implicit marginal tax rates, using our tax and benefit engine. There's also organizations who are using it just to help people understand what benefits they're eligible for today. So My Friend Ben, Amplify, Mirza, and Starlight at the bottom there. And finally, actually, we do have an international presence. So we're working on CliffWatch UK. UK is the first country that we operated in and is now the primary microsimulation model used in the Prime Minister's office at 10 Downing Street. One of the things that we are eager to do in the future is extend CliffWatch by adding even more programs and states. We're always expanding coverage of our policy model. So adding new states around, we have TANF recently completed. We're building more states CCDF policies, more states SSI state supplements. Some of these have cliffs, some of them have, affect the net income in a way that can affect the total width of that cliff range. And also, we're interested in going back in time so we can see how have cliffs evolved through policy reforms. How have they moved maybe potentially from the very low income to the more low to middle income? Are they more or less prevalent? And are they having a bigger net effect or smaller net effect? These kind of questions have been looked at in some specific policies, but not really holistically in the way that we believe our model can support. And also looking to understand what specific policies, not just the policy overall, like Medicaid, but if you think of the whole range of policy choices that policymakers have at their disposal, for example, the ACA 400% of the poverty line cliff, if you remove that, there are trade-offs. It obviously costs more money. It certainly will have the premium tax credits reach people at higher income levels. In some cases, we found almost near $1 million for very extreme examples. It's not very typical, but these kind of trade-offs are ultimately, to Lee's questions of how much do you want to pay or help people at different earnings levels and trade that off potentially against cliffs. So yes, we are eager to look at what is the total prevalence, total sort of impact of those cliffs, and also hopefully work with researchers who are understanding the labor supply and other kind of downstream effects of these policy attributes. So with that, we're really grateful that you all joined. Feel free to check out the tool at policyengine.org/US/CliffWatch. And we're happy to take any questions from the audience at this point too. Just to Lee's question about demoing an aggregate analysis, we don't have that now. It's a research direction we're eager to pursue in the future. And part of the reason we're able to do that is we invest a lot in building a microdata file that has all the information you need to estimate who receives different benefits and who would be eligible for different amounts depending on changes to their earnings. So stay tuned. We'll be releasing that in the coming months.
Hey Max, it's Scott Fast from Colorado. I have a few detailed questions. I don't want to start asking them whenever you're still doing the demo.
It's all yours. Yeah.
So I apologize to everyone else. Please jump in front of me if you have questions, because I'm starting to use this in more detail in Colorado. We work with my friend Ben, who's out of Colorado. But when you start looking at some of these broader questions, we're working with various departments in various counties, the Department of Human Services in various counties. And I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that we were doing this and make sure that, see if you had any feedback or about the approach we're using this. But it's trying to say, if you look at the county level, and the question is whether PolicyEngine tracks that at a detailed level. Some of the benefits can change a little bit. Like, when do you use? I noticed that you don't have the CCAP program. At least I didn't find the CCAP program in here. You had Head Start in here, but I didn't see the CLIF related to the child care assistance program. Did I overlook that, or is that something that's not in the tool?
We have partial coverage. So we do in Colorado. We have some of the deepest coverage of any state in Colorado because of our partnership with my friend Ben.
Right.
But yeah, I think the states like Georgia that Daphne shared, we don't yet.
Okay.
We will, I believe, have all of those done by the end of July.
Okay, that's great. And that was a lot of my questions were around the future of this, is that I'd love to start, from a policy review perspective, we're seeing that most of the people that run the individual programs in the counties actually don't think about this as a big picture. They think about their one individual program. So we're trying to present the bigger policy. And we're even looking at what's the cost to the county at various points. And if we can end up, helping someone grow from, say, $30,000 a year income to $50,000 a year income, it's not so great for the families, but it is actually a positive thing for the counties because they're saving money in all these different buckets. Any thoughts on how that may or may not work with the current tool? So is that an appropriate use of it? And is there anything I should know about?
Yeah. Well, underlying our tool is a general purpose API for doing these kind of calculations. And one of the ways you could use that is to try to estimate some behavioral responses to how, if you adjust the policy, do people earn more, and how does that affect net finances for a government? How does it affect households of different sizes or, across the distribution? So it seems perfectly, the causal inference is really hard. To my knowledge, there's been a lot more research on the effect of changes to the marginal tax rate, not as much around the cliffs themselves. But we hope to spur a little more research in this domain. So yeah, it'd be great to partner on this.
No, and that's kind of what we're starting to get to is can we do some studies on a combination of, if you are working with a nonprofit that really helps someone get a job, keep a job, and advance, it is good not only for the family, even though you have to understand the cliff effects and you have to plan for them, but it's good for the counties and for the overall county budgets because their reductions are there is reduction in how much they're spending on individual people as well. So it sounds like that's similar to what you guys are looking at studying and something that you're hoping the tool will be used for. but let me know if I misrepresented that.
No, yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, any other questions before we wrap for today? Okay, well, we didn't put in the slide, but let's see, great. There's a question just for the recording around incorporating someone who incorporated Virginia's CCDF policies to Yang, am I right that you're sort of augmenting the PolicyEngine platform with
Yes, actually, yeah, we appreciate your great work, and we have been using and following closely with your work, and we have been using your model, I think, since last year, and we noticed a lot of changes, and we used open source and modified the model a little bit by incorporating some of the CCDF policy in Virginia. So that's is one of our team has been working on. I just want to say thank you.
That's so awesome. Yeah, thank you. And I think it speaks to what we hope to achieve by making everything open source that we do. So can you, I don't know if you can talk about sort of the ways you're using it and maybe some of the results you've found.
So actually, this is the way we actually create exactly as what you actually illustrated. So creating this benefit cliffs, but we focus on what is the benefit cliffs actually associated with the CCDF policy when the policy ends, right? So we focusing on the single parents with two children, three children, and even one child. So we find some very interesting results saying that, hey, their policy changes sometimes it's non-binding and some family households being worse off than some other things. And we also create some sort of the regional variations as well.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, CCDF is, from what we've seen, probably the most complex program that we put
That's
into our
exactly
model.
right.
Yeah.
Because each
So,
state has their own administrations, right? It's really hard to find the it's really hard to find sort of the website even for the even different units agents to operate the CCDF. And some states have different names than the other states too.
yep. And even within a state, just the number of policy parameters around the copay schedule and all the requirements just gets very complicated. So I imagine to the extent you're trying to identify which of those parameters are creating the cliffs, it's a real research initiative and endeavor. So I applaud you. Yeah.
That's right, exactly. That's what I actually encountered. When we got into the project, we have seen, wow, this is actually something we didn't actually expect at the beginning. So we discovered more questions and issues. But appreciate any of the works. A great work. Thank you, Max.
Thanks, Yang. And I'll just also drop in if any of you have more questions or even suggestions, ideas you want to bounce off of us around cliff modeling, and always happy to partner. So feel free to reach out to either of us. With that, have a great weekend.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Take care.
Thanks.